Well, hello and good evening. Welcome to Talk Leadership with Cedrick. You know, everybody needs a little TLC. Talk Leadership with
and
Cedrick.
good evening. Welcome to Talk Leadership with Cedrick.
Hold on, we're having a little technical difficulty.
A little TLC.
All right, the Talk Leadership with Cedrick is where we focus on leadership and personal growth with business leaders, educators, and local thought leaders. Our goal is to introduce the audience to leaders who are making an impact with innovative ideas. You know that our guiding leadership principle is the law of contribution, which says growing yourself enables you to grow others. So you can't give what you don't have. So first, you must grow yourself in order to grow others. We believe outstanding leaders like yourself will help us to help others. So tonight, we have a dynamic leader on the show tonight, and I'm just ready to introduce this guy. He's a good friend of mine. We worked in schools last year together. So let me, every week I like to do a proper introduction of my guests. So I want to make sure that I do a proper introduction of our guest, Mr. Nathan Keller. See, at the age of 23, Nathan Keller began working for the Lake Charles Police Department. He was hired as a police officer and started as a patrolman. During his first 3 years, he received awards for his dedication and work ethic. In 1991, he was reassigned to the investigation department and later promoted to the rank of sergeant. In 2002, Nathan Keller was assigned as a patrol shift sergeant where he supervised uniformed patrol officers. In 2006, Nathan was assigned to the Community Policing Division, where he was later promoted to the rank of police lieutenant. While assigned to the Community Police Division, Nathan was instrumental in implementing several proactive programs, including Pastors on Patrol, Neighborhood Watch Group, Back to School programs, and other community-related meetings. In 2015, he was promoted to the rank of police captain and assigned as commander of operations and the commander of operations division and the community policing division. He immediately made contact with the Department of Justice and ensured that all officers under his command received cultural and diversity training. In June 2018, Nathan retired and ran for the Ward 3 Lake Charles City Marshals Office. And this is what we're going to be talking about tonight. He's going to be running for City Marshal again. So March of 2019, Nathan Keller was hired as the Community Safety Liaisons for the City of Lake Charles. He started several safety initiatives for the community. And then recently, he resigned from the mayor's office on the administrative staff to run for the upcoming Ward 3 Marshals race. Nathan Keller has been married to his wife, Janny Broussard Keller, for 32 years. Now that's talking about consistency and intentionality for 32 years. They have 3 wonderful children, Ashley, Brittany, and Nathan Jr., and 6 beautiful grandchildren. So everyone, let's welcome Mr. Nathan Keller to the show.
Thank you.
Well, I am so glad that you're here. I'm excited to talk with you tonight. And as I said, Nate and I work together in schools at the Lake Charles Southwest Charter School, Southwest Louisiana Charter School.
Yes.
And we worked in the Millionaire Boys Mentoring Program. So I'm excited for him to be on the show tonight and talk about, for you to get to know Nathan Keller. So Nathan, tell our listeners, well, first of all, we know that everything rises and falls on leadership.
Yes.
So tell our listeners about your leadership journey and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, I'll give you a little background first of where I'm from. And
from a little town called Crawley, Louisiana. We moved here when I was about 3 years old, and moved in probably the center part of town, where the schools we attended was Fairview Elementary. Back then it was a junior high. It was Oak Park Junior High, where now it's middle school. So it actually went to the 9th grade.
Yep.
And then LaGrange Senior High. And I was, I guess, blessed and privileged enough to, at these particular schools, it was, the ratio probably was 60-40, 50-50. So you had a good diverse group of people at all the schools. So leaving, once I graduated, I took a stint at McNeese and quickly learned that I needed a job. My mom, of course, my mom would always say, you know, a man don't work, a man don't eat. So I worked throughout my high school years. I worked 2 jobs, a full-time job and a part-time job, and played sports. I played basketball, and I guess that's where started my journey on my leadership skills. Was a captain from my 10th grade to my senior year, a letterman in basketball, and ran a little track. And then once I left, I tell you, I was fortunate enough to be employed at a mentally disabled facility, probably at the age of 19, 20 years old. And I quickly learned how unfair life was when you don't fit the norm. People could be so judgmental. And while at that location, I was promoted to a supervisory rank, where I supervised several people at that location. But it was important for me to make sure that those individuals would go out into the community. And when I tell you go out, we fished, crabbed, went to the movies, whatever activities was going on. And again, people could be so judgmental. And that's where I learned one of my traits, as far as we all have something to offer. And just because I don't look like you, or I'm not as tall or as short as you, doesn't make me any less of a person as a whole. And so just educating the general public on that perception alone really allowed me to grow, you know, because that was dear to my heart and still is. And from that point, I ended up at the age of 23 at the Lake Charles Police Department. And in 1988, it was some challenging times. In the 80s, law enforcement was more of a reaction style law enforcement, where you made arrests, you know, and your accolades was on the arrests that you made and the amount of narcotics or whatever that you were seized. But as we went along in the early 90s, mid 90s, things kind of shift. And under President Clinton, with the crime bill, law enforcement violent crime bill, I think it was like $6.1 billion crime bill, the largest in the history at that particular time. And it was focused on community-oriented policing, going back to the old style of policing, where you knew the officers or law enforcement that was patrolling or that was in your area. And law enforcement actually lived in those communities. Well, 2001, terroristic act, and things shifted again in our country. And everything went to terroristic acts, weapons of mass destruction. So all that, the funds were diverted to the safety of our nation. And now it looks like we're headed back into community-oriented policing, to where law enforcement is actually out into the community. So my journey was, again, as I went through the ranks, and as you go up, that funnel gets tighter and tighter as to the friends that you have.
Right.
Because now you're supervising those friends that you started on the level with, and the decisions fall on your shoulders. So it's really, I mean, a true leader, you have to be leading from the front. And it's so important today, especially in law enforcement, where if you're not leading from the front and you're getting all the stagnant from the side and then the static noise from the side, and you can't focus enough, that's when you fall. So that's just kind of a little short history of my little journey into my leadership role. And when I took over as Commander of Operations at the Lake Charles Police Department in 2015, there was only 2 captains, the Commander of Operations and the Commander of Investigations. And the Commander of Operations was basically over 90% of the uniform officers. And at the police department, you've got a complement of 186 uniform officers. So you do the math. So, but most of my command staff was lieutenants and sergeants that I dealt with. And we met regularly, and I learned quickly that you don't have to be the smartest one in the room. You need smart people around you. And that is so important that sometimes we forget as leaders. And we get intimidated when other smart people come. Well, Mom used to tell me a long time ago, if you're the smartest one in the circle, you've outgrown that circle. You need to move to another circle.
Yeah, you're in the wrong circle. Absolutely.
Right.
So I love the background and I love your story on around this but what I want to ask you is, so why run for city marshal? What's the passion there?
The passion with running for city marshal is the city marshals for so long has been, and I want to use my words carefully, secondary, because you've got the sheriff's office, state police, and you've got the Lake Charles Police Department. And the marshal's office normally handles the executive duties of the court, courtroom security, the issuance of subpoenas, garnishments, repossessions, evictions. But you've got the ability to do so much more that we're not doing. And that's what I'm focused on. The executive duties we understand. But how do we bridge the communication gap with law enforcement? How do we go out and truly serve? Because we all are servants. How do we serve the community and don't just stay inside of a box?
Well, you're spot on. So communication gap. So we know that everyone communicates, but few connect.
Correct.
And we know in law enforcement, connection is the key to de-escalating an issue. Communication is the key to making sure that everybody across the line, from the officer that's on the front lines every day, all the way up to the judge that's sitting on a bench, right?
That is correct.
All across those lines, it's about connecting. So how, in your administration, how will the city marshal's office help improve those lines of communication?
Accessibility. You have to have a marshal that will be accessible to the community that it serves. That's the key. And being able to work with all the other agencies to make sure that we're all on the same page. And making sure that the community understands what the duties are of the marshal's office, making sure that the community understands that they're welcome into that building because it's their building, and we're not us against them. It's about connecting and making sure that they understand that when there's a need, we will be there.
Yeah.
Now, especially now with the challenging times of COVID-19 and the coronavirus, it's law enforcement plays an integral role in this. And a true leader understands that now where you're taking everyone and you're keeping them home, and it's important now that a true leader understands that we have to go and check on our seniors. We have to call them and say, hey, are you okay? Because they're in the homes now, scared and frightened to go outside. We have to make sure our homeless population are informed on what's going on, because they don't have Facebook. Most of them have Facebook and not watching the news, but
Right.
they're part of the community.
Mhm.
So it's important that we reach out and touch every one of those sectors, and mainly our youth. When we can grab and catch our youth at an early age and show them that law enforcement is not the enemy, that we are here to help and we're here to provide a service. Our kids attend your schools with your kids, and we coach the baseball, basketball teams, and we go out get our grocery where you get yours, and we want to be in the neighborhood. So if they have an issue, they're not running away from the people that's supposed to be protecting them.
Wow. Well, here's what I need you to make sure that you're understanding what Mr. Nathan Keller, who's running for Ward 3 City Marshal, is saying. He's saying that in his administration, he wants to make sure that communication is not disconnected, that it's connected. He also wants to make sure that we touch every segment of society. Senior citizens who are trapped in their houses. He wants to make sure that we touch the homeless, who are normally the forgotten part of society in any city, right? But more importantly, he said he wants to also connect law enforcement officers with the youth. Make sure that they understand that the police is not the enemy. See, that's critical and important. We're all talking about George Floyd, but we're forgetting about what needs to happen in order so that we don't have another one of these George Floyd.
That is correct.
One in office that has the skill set, the ability, and the will to make these things work. So let me show you something, what Nate is talking about. And he understands this because he worked in school last year. Right, watch this. Boys or youth that have mentors are 55% more likely to enroll in college. See, so he's talking about being a mentor to these youth, right? Youth that have mentors are 78% more likely to volunteer. You see, youth that have mentors are 90% more interested in becoming a mentor themselves. So now you're changing the dynamics of what's happening with youth in our nation today. And right in Lake Charles, he's saying, here's the data, folks. Young people that have mentors are 130% more likely to become leaders themselves.
Yes.
I'm going to share one more chat with you, and then we're going to move on here, folks. Here's what happens. Here's the other thing. Students who meet regularly with a mentor are 52% less likely than their peers to skip school, and 37% less likely to skip class. So now Nate is talking about changing a whole dynamic in a school system, in a city. So this is why you need to vote for Nate Keller, Ward 3 City Marshal. So, Nate, what are some of the other things that we're going to do in your first 90 days?
Well, one of my short-term goals, and this is only because now of the pandemic. The Marshals Office is responsible for serving evictions. So you know as well as I do that now more than any time that we're going to have in our city, and not just in Lake Charles, but again, this is going to be everywhere, a problem everywhere, excuse me, where we're going to have to get with the landlords. We're going to have to get with the tenants to make sure that we have a plan so everyone is educated and knowledgeable on what's coming down the pipe. We've recently had the in our state where the governor did a renter's protection for 3 months where they paid your rent. Well, it was in 48 hours, those funds were depleted. That showed the need.
Yeah.
But again, when this is over, the rent is still due. The mortgage is still due. So we have to make sure that we are fair and balanced. We're following the law, but we're compassionate enough to know that we're going to have a lot of people losing homes, losing rentals where they're renting property. So that's going to be a major part when I come in, that we make sure that both sides understand. And from that point, we want to make sure that we have quarterly meetings, so our general public knows what the eviction process is, and the landlords understand what the eviction process is. And that's very important. Also, one of my short-term goals my 90-day plan is de-escalation skills. I want to make sure that all the deputies are trained in de-escalation skills and mental illness awareness. Mental illness is not just a problem in Lake Charles or the state of Louisiana. Mental illness and substance abuse are two of the main issues when law enforcement has to encounter or is in an altercation with an individual. So why wouldn't we put our resources in those type of trainings to make sure that they are qualified and they can de-escalate, and not only that, recognize that these individuals don't need to go to jail, they need medical attention, and we need to get them to a medical facility. And that's the difference. And I say that meaning when you in the court, because one of the jobs is to maintain order in the courts. So you want to make sure that you can at least look and engage and see if these individuals need some other type of assistance.
So compassion and connection,
yes,
is the key. And we know that the law of connection says leaders touch the heart before they ask for the hand. It's okay to be stern and have people follow directions, but you also have to understand maybe the situation here. Every time it's not about just pulling out your gun and saying bang, bang. It's
right.
Assessing the situation, and not that we're saying that every law enforcement officer just pull out their gun and do that. But what we're saying is more people need to be trained in this area so that we don't have the situation that we had in other parts of the country. I love your short-term goals there. We know that leaders come in different packages with different strengths. What things do you feel are important to be successful in this role?
I think the first, my strongest area would be communication. Communicating with not only the general public, but your subordinates as well. Understanding that, again, connecting, making sure that we connect and everyone is on the same page, because those saying, if we don't provide the information, the whole of the streets will.
Yeah.
And most times it's the wrong information.
Right.
So that what I would call that would be my strength, and also my willingness to be in the community and listen. Because so often we want to speak, and believe it or not, the community, and especially our youth, have so much to say, but we want to continuously speak and tell them instead of listening and allowing them to have an opinion on the direction that Ward 3 is headed.
Wow. Well, you've just said something, Nate, here that makes a big difference. Folks, when you're going out to vote, you need to be thinking about these things, right? So communication is key and critical and vital. But what he said is listening. listening to the community, listening to what the youth are saying, asking versus telling.
Correct.
That's the difference right there. We know that Stephen Covey says, listen first to understand, then to be understood. That's what he's saying in his administration they're going to do first. So let's help the audience know who you are. So let's say when all the doors are closed and you're at home and you're just relaxing with the family, what desserts are you eating?
Everything that's in the freezer. Whatever ice cream Janie's got in the freezer. Whatever cookies that's on the counter, I'm eating them. But serious, her banana pudding.
Banana pudding.
She makes a mean banana pudding, and now my oldest daughter, Ashley. So they compete during the holidays, and I have to be the judge, and that's not a good deal. That's not a good deal. So I lose either ways.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but you get to win because you get to try them.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. All right. And so now we're watching sports, right? What's your favorite? I'll stay away from the Saints because I know everybody's a Saints fan. Louisiana.
You already know that. You don't even have to ask. You know that.
All right, but let's say we're watching basketball. What's your favorite pro basketball team?
I would probably go with right now the Pelicans.
Pelicans?
New Orleans, yes.
Okay. All right. So your wife is on here and she said, it's on the screen here. Say that, husband, talking about those desserts. We're talking about her dessert is the best.
That's right. That's right.
Awesome. So if you had the opportunity to have $1 million, would you rather have $1 million in Amazon gift cards or $100,000 in hard cash?
You asking me that?
Yeah.
I'd like to have them both.
Well, you can't have both. You can't eat both banana puddings. You got to have one over the other.
I'd like to have both. I would probably say the gift cards.
The gift card.
And right. I would say that just because you're able to give those out.
Look at that, folks. Look at that. He's talking about a servant heart right here. You see, I asked this question a lot of times, and no one's ever said you can give those out to other people.
Right.
See, now that's what leaders do. They think first about other people versus themselves. I was actually thinking, yeah, that's great. I'm gonna get those $1 million in gift cards, and I'm gonna try to see if I can buy other gift cards.
See. No.
Well, that's what you want. Anytime you're voting for someone, folks, on a serious note, when you're voting for someone in an election, you need to make sure that person, they're serious, but they also can laugh at themselves, and laugh about themselves, and they have a sense of humor about themselves, right? It's not all about business, folks, and you can see Nathan Keller definitely is a business, but he also can laugh and be a regular person. And so the heart of a leader, he said, first of all, he wants to listen to the youth. He wants to break down silos and help people better communicate. Right? That's part of a leader, folks. You can't get that everywhere. So you need to pay attention to those things, right? So what we know that good leaders ask great questions. So what's a question that either you ask or someone asked of you in your career and you thought, wow, that's a great question and it helped me?
I would say one of the questions I've always is the question now is why, and how come. So often in our career, when someone gives you directives, you are just told to comply in whatever the directive is. But I think one of the best tools is to ask why. There's nothing wrong with asking why. Now, let me back up. In law enforcement, if I'm telling you to do something and it's the heat of the moment, I don't expect you to ask why. Let's get that out. Let's move that out of the way. But once everything is de-escalated and calmed down, and you're supposed to go back and be able to ask why, because iron sharpens iron. And what happens is now you're making that leader give you an explanation instead of this is how it's always been, or we're not doing it because it's not our job. And so often you hear that now.
Yes, absolutely. So Kimberly Delafosse, I won't say her nickname on the air, but Kimberly Delafosse said, Nate's character and integrity are two of his greatest assets. Folks.
Thank you, Mrs. Delafosse.
Yeah, I mean, that says it all right there. You're looking for character and integrity in office. Kimberly just said it. That's two of Nate's greatest assets. Right there.
Yes, yes.
So we know that growth is intentional, right? You have to be intentional in order to grow and to get bigger and better, faster, stronger, any organization. So what do you do, or in your career, what did you do for personal growth and development and professional growth?
Training, schools, seminars, never stop learning and going to the schools and seminars that are available. And I was fortunate coming up through the ranks. Everything that was available, I signed up. And now don't get me wrong, I've got probably 3 pages of schools but I can go back now and all of them weren't good, but I can go back now and look and see and take a little bit out of each one, and it just allows you to grow. So you never stop learning. So you must continuously go to the training, go to the seminars, and make sure that, again, you're not the smartest one in your circle. You allow other smart people to surround you. So a true leader, and I believe this, a true leader, you shouldn't even notice when you're gone. A true leader should have that next person ready in line to step up and run that organization as if you was there. A true leader is not intimidated by smart people.
Right.
A true leader understands that smart people allows them to elevate as well. And that's when we grow and we continue to give back. Because I don't want to be the marshal for 20 years. So we have to invest and undergird someone to show them how to become a successful marshal, how to become a successful leader. We can no longer contain and hold all of our knowledge to ourselves anymore. We have to pour that into our youth and our future leaders, and quit saying it's not their time.
Absolutely. Pour it into the next generation. Yeah. And this actually ties right into my next question. What advice would you give an emerging leader? Let's say it's someone coming up through the ranks in the city marshal office, or they're coming up through the ranks in the Lake Charles Police Department. What advice would you give them in finding leadership opportunities or ways to fill their professional toolbox?
Get involved. Get involved. Again, educate yourself. If you know that you are headed to a division, let's say you want to go on into investigations, find out what schools are available. Find out what resources are available. And also understand that you will get resistance. Everyone don't want to see you on the top. You will get resistance, and be able to withstand and hold on when that resistance comes. And don't allow anyone to write your narrative to your story. Your story is your story, and you don't allow anyone to write your narrative. And that's so important in today, especially, and I always go back to our youth, because our youth, they're the future.
Right.
And we can no longer allow someone else to write the stories for them. We want to pour into them to where they can go out and be great leaders in our community as well.
Awesome. I really like that, Nate. It's very simple. Get involved.
Get involved.
I love that. I love that. So, talking about get involved, what can the citizens of Lake Charles do to help get involved in your campaign?
That's a great question. I would say first, do your research on me. So you know who I am and what I represent. Because I don't want you just jumping on because you heard Nate was a good guy and Nate is okay in the community and he's involved in community activity. Do your research. And then go to my web, www.Keller for FORLC Marshall.com.
Okay.
And actually once you go into that, then it'll direct you to different areas. And if you want to be a phone taker and make calls, if you want to help assist in putting up signs, or if you just want a yard sign, or if you want to call and just give me some encouraging words. And not only that, if you want to donate, because in today's society, we cannot go out and do the big functions, and you can't do the fundraisers like normal campaigning. So fundraising is kind of off limits. So the donations are appreciated. It allows me to get the material I need and to make sure that we get the resources out so people can really know who Nathan Keller is and what Nathan Keller stands for and what his plans are for Ward 3 City Marshal.
So folks, you heard that. You can get involved. You say that, hey, I don't know how to get involved. Well, he just told you. Go to Keller for lcmarshall.com. It's right up on the screen.
Yes.
Just type it in, go there. You'll find out how to get involved, whether you want to volunteer, whether you want to donate money. And folks, let me say this. He needs people to donate money. Okay?
Yes.
All right. We love volunteers. He loves volunteers. And we want you to do that. But he also needs some people to volunteer their wallets.
And that's, for me, that's one of the hardest things to do, because I'm used to pouring out. And now I'm asking. And that's one of the most difficult things to do is ask, hey, I need donations. I can't run this campaign by myself. And and I tell people the story of when I ran in 2018, a young lady came and a minimum wage job, and she said, Mr. Nate, they call him Mr. Nate, Uncle Nate in the community. So Mr. Nate, I believe in your campaign, and she gave me $100. Now she's got kids, and I know her income. So for her to give me that $100 was more valuable than someone that's of an upper status to give me that same $100.
Sure.
Because it meant something to her. It really did. That she believed in me enough. And I just remember that, and it sticks with me that, so don't think that what you give is too small, because nothing is too small.
Right. Yeah. And folks, I would say, so Nate can't, he feels different about asking people to donate, but I don't, folks. I'm asking you to go out and donate. Go to the website. You don't have to leave your house. Go to the website and donate, whether it's $5, whether it's $10, it could be $1. Every little bit helps when you're running a campaign. So, for lcmarshall.com. So, Nate, mentors. Mentorship is important. Now, here I'm talking about adult mentorship, right? So, do you have a mentor?
I would say I had several mentors throughout my career. But I would start with my mom. my mom instilled in me the work ethic, how to get up and no one owes you anything. You have to go out and get it. And, I watched her when we were kids. Again, like I said, we lived in Crawley, and she would Crawley, Louisiana, and we would stay with my grandmother or relatives, and she would leave Crawley and travel to Baton Rouge to Southern to go to school to further her education. That's how determined she was to make sure that she was able to provide for us. So she would be my first. And I would say my second and third probably would be a guy named Linton DeCluid, that was a police officer. And he actually lived across the street from where we grew up. And so when he'd come, and he had the demeanor of the good guy, not the big buff, intimidating guy, but he was approachable. And he was the one that actually convinced me and continuously encouraged me. He said, Nick, you would be a good law enforcement officer. And he retired as a lieutenant with the Lake Charles Police Department. And he was actually gone by the time I got there. But he was one of them that I looked up to in the community because you didn't hear any the negative stuff. It was all positive. He'd come home and he'd tell us about his day and how he'd ride. And you'd see him ride in the neighborhood. And I guess what was more important than anything, he wouldn't only ride, he would stop. And he would take time to listen. And that's important.
Sure.
And so once I got on to law enforcement, 23 years old, I tell you, I had quite a few mentors then because I had Captain Lewis, Byron Lawson, Eva Antoine. I can go on and on about some of the supervisors when I came on that were there, the Andrew Hershey's. And they really showed me how to tone it down. And they called me Grasshopper. And they were sensei. No, Grasshopper, not yet. Not yet. And because there was times when I wanted to quit because I didn't like how the atmosphere and the tone of law enforcement and how we were treated sometimes. And when I say we of color, and I'm talking, I'm going back to the 80s and the early 90s. But I seen a change. And they said, Nate, it's only going to change if you stay. If you leave, then you can't be a part of the change.
Right.
And I stayed and went through the ranks. And like I said, and Louis Hebert, he probably don't want me to mention his name, but he retired as a captain. And when I came on, and he was one of the first ones that taught me how to invest money. My mom taught me how to make money, go out and work hard, save it. And this guy really set us down and said, you're not going to see it now, but you need to take this out and put it here, and every time put it here. And when it's time for you to leave, you're going to be okay. And there were times during the course of my career, the hall would, man, stock market crashing. You need to hurry up and go get your money. You're losing money every day. He called me in the office and closed the door, and he said, Nate, you haven't lost anything. Your money's still there. All your stuff is still there. You're in this for the long haul. Right. You're not in this for the short run. And that's so important that we teach our kids and our youth how to invest. So those, I would say, were some of my mentors. And I still call Linton every now and then, and we talk on the phone and whatnot. But those were some of my mentors that really guided my direction in law enforcement and how to be successful.
Well, that's awesome. We know that mentorship is extremely important for the youth, but also in your career. So, hey, Nate, I know early in the show, I kind of went through some of your successes, but what I want you to do, there's people that have joined since then. I want you to give us a rundown of just, a short synopsis of your career successes.
And that's one of the hard things that, you normally don't want to pump yourself up.
I'll tell you, this is the time that I ask him to brag on himself. So don't bragging.
Right. I would say in my early career, like I said, I received several awards for just the service and work ethics. While at the police department, I received Officer of the Year, which is the highest award that you can receive in law enforcement at any agency. Supervisor of the Year, nominated several times for Supervisor of the Year. Community Achievement Awards with the NAACP, with the Kiwanis North, and I can go on and on. But most of my awards were because of my involvement in the community.
So most of your awards were because of service to the community.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the same thing that you want to do here with the City Marshal's Office. You want to help serve the community.
Yes. Absolutely.
I absolutely love that. And so the reason why I wanted people to hear some of your successes, Nate, and also a success that he didn't mention is 31 years, right, with the Lake Charles City Police Department?
Yes.
That is a long time, folks, for anybody's career. 31 years with one organization is phenomenal, is outstanding, and definitely worthy of praise and mentioning. So, you know, we've all gone through life where we had successes and we had ups in our careers, but we also had times where we failed, right? So give us one time where you failed and what you learned from that failure.
And I don't particularly care to use the word fail. I'd rather use setbacks. Okay. And I would say one of my setbacks was when I fell short in 2018 in this same election, in this same seat that I'm running for now. It would have been so easy to say that's it. But that's not who I am, and that's not who I will continue to be. So what I learned was that through your setbacks, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna go off script for a minute, but someone told me while I was at the Millionaire Boys Club doing a deal, and he had a ball, and everyone had a ball, and we were able to bounce that ball. And the harder you bounce the ball, the higher it went up in the air. And it just makes so much sense that doesn't matter how many times you fall, that you can rise and get back up. And that was a prime example of the ball. And once that occurred, man, I'm telling you, it hurt, but I asked, and I had a discerning heart. So prior to doing anything, any major event or movement, I go to God, my wife and I, and we pray. And I'll never forget this story either. We prayed about the Marshals Office in 2018. And my comment when I was running, I told everyone, God told me to move. So I'm leaving where I'm at. And another friend said this as well. I left everything behind, so there was no retreat. I couldn't go back because I was civil service, which means all connection was gone to the Lake Charles Police Department. So now I'm unemployed, shooting for something, but I know it was time for me to leave where I was. And no one could understand that outside of my circle, but spiritually I knew it was time. Now I wanted to be the marshal. Let's keep that real and put that on the table. Mm-hmm. But God had another plan. And when I tell you, it was revealed just so clear and vivid that when we were in the runoff, I knew that he had already positioned me, and God is in tomorrow waiting on us. He knows what tomorrow is. So he was already positioning me for something else. And look where I am today. I was able to go into the mayor's office of the city of Lake Charles on his administrative staff as the community safety liaison, which means it allowed me to further what I enjoy doing, which is connecting to the community, being involved, and service to the community. Now, doing that, it allowed me to meet great people like you and so many other people, because I learned that through partnership is when you are most successful.
Yeah.
You know, you can go alone,
Yeah.
but when you have a partnership of people and knowledge, you go much further and much longer.
Absolutely. Well, you're talking my language there. So you're talking about overcoming failure with and not calling them failure, call it setbacks, right? And you can always bounce back, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
And also, as a leadership principle, folks, that Nate just gave you, it's a golden nugget. You need to take it. He says, the law of significance. One is too small a number to achieve greatness. What he's saying, folks, is one person can do a lot of good things, but they can't be significant. They can't do great things alone. Every person, with the man, always been able to do significant things as a team with other people. And that's what he's saying he's going to bring to the Marshals Office.
Yes.
A team environment, a collaborative environment, breaking down silos, helping people better understand how to connect with their communication, how to reach out to the community, how to get our youth involved. This is what leaders do, folks. So if you're looking for a leader in the Marshals Office, then Nate Keller is the guy.
Thank you.
We haven't talked about your. I know some that they have like a number on the ballot.
Yes, I am number 93 on the ballot, and someone told me, Nate, you know what your number means? I said, well, it means I hope 93 is successful on November 3rd. No, 93 is about the birthing of something. 9 is the birthing, and 3 is the Trinity. And I'm saying, you know, and this came to me from someone when I told them the number, and I was like, you know, my slogan is vote for a new day. So a new birthing, a new day, you know, vote for, you know, because we say change.
Right.
Vote for a new day. We can no longer allow anyone to tell us, because that's the way it's always been, so we're going to keep it as status quo. We in a generation now where our youth are taking a stand and really moving forward and want to get involved. And we, as leaders, like I said earlier, we have to be willing to listen. And sometimes we have to be willing to acknowledge that we have shortcomings. And that's the hardest thing to do.
Sure.
Acknowledge you have shortcomings.
Sure.
And formulate a plan, a strategic plan on how do we get to the next step? How do we not keep getting the fruit off the top, but how do we get to the root cause of what we're dealing with? Because if not, all we're doing is going in a revolving door, and it just continuously comes back and comes back. So we have to get to the root cause, but those conversations are uncomfortable, but we have to have them.
Absolutely. Hey, give us, Nate, 3 things that the citizens of Lake Charles will benefit from having Nate Keller in office as a city marshal.
The first and most important is you'll have someone that will be accessible. You will have someone that will communicate, and you will know exactly what's going on in the marshal's office. And you will have someone who will serve, and everyone under his command will serve in this community, because that's what it's all about. I continuously go back to serving. You cannot be an effective leader if you cannot serve. And it's that simple. You must first be a servant.
ACS, folks, accessible, communication, and service. ACS. Type it in the comments for us, folks. ACS, accessible, accessibility, communication, and service. ACS. Type that in the comments for me, folks. That's what you're going to get with Nate Keller. Let him know you hear him. You're hearing his message. Vote for number 93 on the ballot, folks. ACS. Accessibility, communication, service. ACS. That's all you need to know. ACS 93. That's
Yes,
what you need to know.
yes. And most importantly, exercise your right and vote.
Absolutely.
Regardless to what you think about whatever candidate, exercise your right and vote. Too long, our vote has been taken for granted because we don't vote like we should. And when I say we, I'm talking about the community.
Community.
You know, 33, 26% go out to vote. That makes the decisions for the whole community. So
Right.
we can no longer complain if we're not voting. We have to vote. Vote number 93.
Absolutely. Yeah, you close your mouth if you don't vote, folks. Your voting is that's your right to have a voice and to say something. So let me ask you this, and we're going to be wrapping up in just a little bit, but I want to make sure that people understand this. And you know, there are a lot of things that's going on in the world today. Obviously, COVID, businesses are locked down, people can't go out, they have to wear a mask and all that type of stuff. Even with all of that, Nate, hey, we know that, and you're a believer like I'm a believer, we know that the world will continue.
Yes.
Tell us, why should the citizens of Lake Charles, Louisiana, still be encouraged and engaged in the voting process?
The voting process makes a difference. It allows your voice to be heard. If you don't vote, like I said earlier, you allow someone else to make the decisions for you. You allow someone else to come in and determine whether or not a school is closed or a school remains open in your community. It determines whether or not you have law enforcement officers that are talking about communication and opening lines and building trust and transparency. All these things occurs. It talks about the judges that you're going to have that you're voting on. You know, like it or not, some family member will have to go in front of one of these judges. And if you don't vote, you don't get a choice as to what judge will be residing in those seats. So your vote is important. And back, I would say prior to the George Floyd and even a little before that, it was, well, our vote don't count. I would hear that so often with our young adults.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. They're going to do what they want to do anyway, and our vote doesn't count. Well, your vote doesn't count if you don't vote. You are absolutely correct. It doesn't count if you don't vote. But if you exercise your right and vote, your vote is just as important as the president of the United States. You get one and he get one.
Absolutely. Sometimes we wish we didn't get to vote, but that's different. Never mind. Never mind. Let me stop that. My power for good. So, hey, Nate, look right in the camera. We have 2 minutes left. Look right in the camera and tell the folks of Lake Charles why Nate Keller.
If you want a leader that will be involved in the community, a leader that will be accessible to the community, a leader that will allow you to have a voice, then you vote number 93, Nathan Keller for Ward 3, City Marshal. A leader that will no longer allow someone to say this is the way it's always been and we deserve no more. A leader that will say we deserve the best every day. And today is a new day. You vote for a new day. You vote Nathan Keller, number 93, on November the 3rd. Thank you.
Well, folks, I don't have to say anything else. He just, wow, that was powerful. I'm ready to vote. I don't even live in Lake Charles, and I'm ready. This is awesome, folks. Hey, Nate, thank you very much for coming on the show tonight. I've enjoyed it. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Audience, if you've enjoyed it, tell Nate you've enjoyed listening to him and talking about his campaign. So awesome, awesome, awesome. Hey, guys, I have an exciting announcement on a new monthly special segment we're going to have starting Monday, August 24th. You know, many of you are always, well, many of us, I should say, are always trying to figure out how to eat healthier, how to change what we eat, what foods we put in our bodies. And, you know, I'm going to have some ice cream tonight, but but we're trying to change what we eat on a daily basis to become healthier. And I know that a lot of you enjoyed the segment where Ms. Shatanya Chapman was on talking about healthy eating. So guess what we're going to do, folks? Starting Monday, August 24th, we're going to have a special segment on a monthly basis called Healthy Eating. Get well, stay healthy. And Miss Shatanya Chapman is going to come on and she's going to help us eat better, eat smarter, eat bigger, better, stronger in our eating process. So starting Monday, August 24th, she's going to be on to help us with that. And you know what? Watch out, because this is probably going to grow and be something even bigger than what we're starting with, right? But we have to start somewhere. So tomorrow night, folks, at 5:30 p.m. Central Time, set your dials so that you're right back here. Tomorrow, we will have Louisiana native Jennings, the Louisiana native attorney, Aurelia Lawrence, on the show. And I want you to tune in and come hear her. She's a dynamic attorney in Southwest Louisiana that's doing some great stuff for Miss Olivia Lawrence. Then at 6:30 Central Time, you know, I go over to the Empowered Living Network where we do our show on Black Entrepreneurs Institute. And folks, we have 1.9 million subscribers on that platform. So you come and join them. We want to get to 2 million really quickly and then move right on to 2.5 to 3 million subscribers. So I need your help to keep building that community. So tomorrow night at 6:30, that's Tuesday night at 6:30, we'll be there. We'll be here at 5:30. We'll go there at 6:30. And we're going to come back here at 7:30, folks. It's just going to be crazy. Tomorrow night at 7:30, we'll be here with Talk TK, talking about mental performance and mindset performance. If you want to go to a higher level, folks, you want to be there. And let me tell you, folks, this is what I'm going to wrap up with. You know, if you're not at the table, you are on the menu. Don't be on the menu. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Good night.